first week in office. He's been doing a lot of things, as expected. His border czar told me last night they've already gotten 1,300 migrants arrested. Today, the Trump administration used military planes to deport dozens of migrants from Texas to Guatemala, and that's going to keep happening. Mexico refused our plane. Now, that's going to be a problem. We'll see what Trump does about that. Now, tonight, as proof of premise that we can do better, when's the last time you saw members of Congress from the two parties on together to talk about anything, let alone how to make something better that they agree on? We have that tonight. Republican Pete Sessions and Democrat Henry Cuellar. It's good to have you both, and I respect very much that you came on together. Thank you for caring about the work of the people more than the parties.
Thank you so much to both of you, and it's always good to see my good friend Pete.
Yeah, it's good to see you both. Hey,
Henry, thank you very much. It's good to be on with you, too. I'm proud to do this, Henry.
Thank you.
Hey, Pete, let me ask you something. What do you think the president's response, what do you think Congress's disposition should be toward Mexico saying you can't land?
Well, Mexico is going to have to find a way to want to welcome its own citizens back because they're going to come. But it's going to also require a little bit of help from members like Henry Cuellar and myself to talk common sense to our friends. We have friends in Mexico. We do a lot of business with Mexico, and it's important to Mexico and it's important to Texas also. And so as my good friend Al Zaponte, who's president of U.S.-Mexico Chamber, would say, it's in both of our best interests to find a way to make it happen. Just the same thing that you said tonight.
Hey, Henry, what do you say to Democrats who say, look what happened in New Jersey? They caught some people. They rounded up that were supposed to be illegal entrants. They're not illegal entrants. They're citizens. They're veterans. You got to stop this effort. It's going to be a disaster. What do you say to them?
Well, I think you said it well at the beginning. You got to look at the big picture. What we're trying to do is to make sure that we protect the sovereignty of our nation, and that means border security. We just got to be careful when you go in and make sure that we don't profile and pick any Americans. But certainly, we need to make sure that we enforce and anybody that's not supposed to be here, start off with criminals, risk to national security, the 1.3 million final deportation orders that we have of individuals, that should have left. Those folks, we should be focusing on them, especially the gangs and the criminals that we have here in the United States.
Pete, you're not going to deport your way out of this problem. You got to work on the flow at the southern border. I don't think the president, by executive order, can get the rule changes and the resources that, as you guys know better than I, the people doing the job on the southern border have been asking for decades. What do you believe is the ambition of Congress to work on those solutions?
It's very clear to me, Chris, that both Henry and I have been on the border. And much of the border wall, I'm sure a huge percent is completed. It is the gaps, it is the holes that are there. Once we complete putting those, the wall complete, then federal law enforcement will change their direction from being someone who simply does all the paperwork to enforcing the law and making sure that we can protect the border. Now, what is the temperature of Congress? The temperature of Congress is we've got to make sure that we also deport those people who've come from foreign countries who are adversary to the United States. And perhaps President Trump selected the ones where they are because they needed to go, because it was easy to do that. But we've got a lot of hard work that's got to be done with a lot of other adversaries who had people in this country. There were some 400 people on the terrorist watch list who are already in this country. They allowed them, the Biden administration allowed to come in. And Henry and I have both spoken up about that. Henry's a Democrat, used his common sense, not his wisdom against his party, his common sense to say, That was a bad policy. We now need to go find them.
Henry, we'll end on this. A lot of some of the Democrats voted for the Laken Riley bill, but a lot of them didn't. And the reason for not voting for it is that there is still that amnesty vibe within the Democratic Party, that they believe that there's too much harshness and not enough heart in this policy. I wave away the logistics arguments about what it's going to cost. I frankly, no disrespect, but I don't believe any Democrats or Republicans are that worried about cost when it's something that they want. But what do you say to your fellow party members who say we got to be finding ways to keep these people in this country, not throwing them out?
I think I was the only Democrat on the House side that co-sponsored the legislation because it's common sense. Somebody said, well, Henry, you're anti-immigrant by signing on to this legislation. I said, no, it's not anti-immigrant. It's anti-criminal because we're focusing on the criminals. My father was born in Guerrero, Mexico. He became a legal resident. Took him a long time. Then he became a naturalized citizen, and he came in. Took him a long time, and he followed the law. So, my thing is, if somebody follows the process and they're here, don't break the law, we support them. But if somebody is coming here and has broken the law, then I think that's definitely a different situation that we're looking at. And I think Pete and I, both understand that, look, Pete's a Republican, I'm a Democrat, but we were sent up here not to represent each of those parties. We were sent here to represent our country, our state, and our districts. And that's why we agree on a lot of things together. And like Pete said, we've been to Mexico together. Mexico's the #1 trading partner, but they have to take responsibility to make sure that we work on this immigration issue and fentanyl issue also.
Yeah, the fentanyl is huge. We'll see what the interdiction is with the cartels, what shape that takes. People are going right to military, but they're forgetting that designating them as FTOs, foreign terrorist organizations, great access to freezing their assets. And as we all know, organized crime does it for the money. And we'll see how the president utilizes that mechanism. But my brothers, do what you can to get the work of the people done on this issue. You will always have a platform to discuss what's working and what isn't, what the roadblocks are. News Nation is here for it. Henry Cuellar, Pete Sessions, God bless you both and thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Pete.
Take care, Henry.
Gentlemen, have a good weekend.